Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. I don't care if you're a Coach Prime hater. One, you got to appreciate last week's game, Colorado against Baylor. Well, the follow-up, you talk about another big stage for Colorado. We talked about this on Sunday's Aaron Torres pod. Love Colorado, hate Colorado. People care. 4 national TV games so far. This week, they're going down to UCF in the Bounce House in Orlando. Kind of an interesting point spread on this. By the way, I say it's a big game because Big Noon will be there. I assume that means that Gus, Joel, and Jenny will be calling that game. But bring it up because what's interesting is the point spread. Colorado 3-1 coming off back-to-back wins. Really, I would argue the 2 best games of the Coach Prime era. They are currently, as we record, it's Wednesday night. This is subject to change. But they are a 14.5-point underdog. UCF and Gus Malzahn, the Gus Bus, are a 14.5-point favorite. The over-under in this game is set at 64.5. Let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about Colorado. Bottom line, listen. Again, love Coach Prime, hate him. That game was unbelievable last week. As we all know, Colorado trailing 31-24 with 2 seconds left, 3 seconds left, whatever it was. Shedeur Sanders drops back. Shedeur Sanders throws. LeJontay Wester catches it. Extra point is good. You force overtime. Travis Hunter has the ball. He knocks the ball out of the runner's hands, forces the fumble, touchback, overtime victory for Colorado. Same time, before we even get to the UCF perspective on things, because I've seen a lot of this week, and we all understand there are a lot of Coach Prime haters. I am not one of them. But I bring it up because I've seen so many people, well, I mean, if there wasn't the miracle, none of you would be talking about Colorado. And that's fair. There certainly wouldn't be the excitement. There certainly wouldn't be the hype if Colorado was 2-2 coming off a home loss to Baylor. At the same time, I think it's worth noting a couple things on Colorado before we tell you a little bit about UCF. Colorado, first of all, worth noting, as I just said, did give up a punt or a kickoff return for a touchdown a week ago. Not excusing a special teams blunder, but you make a tackle and they had the ball carrier wrapped about 10 yards into his right where he caught the ball. Basically, you finish the tackle. It's 24-24. Shedeur Sanders either doesn't need to make that throw or he's throwing a Hail Mary to win the game. So that's part of it. 2, it's worth noting Colorado had over 100 more yards of total offense than Baylor. And 3, on top of that, held Baylor to 7 points in the second half. And it is one of those situations where Colorado has been a second half team, especially on defense. By the way, if you're watching, we got a little bit of a lighting issue here on the Torres studio, so forgive me. But so I bring it up with Colorado because, yes, they needed that miracle play to win. But just because they needed that miracle play did not mean they were terrible the entire game. I would argue for the majority of the game, they were the better team. So that's the Colorado perspective. UCF, a very interesting team. They are 3-0 coming into this one. They are coming off a bye. Now, it's worth noting kind of a little bit of a scheduling quirk for UCF. You could argue maybe their 2 most high-profile games coming back-to-back. Got Colorado this week at home. You got to go to Florida next week. Florida's not very good. But if you don't think that game matters for UCF, for their players, for the guys on that roster that did not get recruited by Florida, you're out of your mind. So it's a big couple weeks for this program, big national stage. And to their credit, listen, I can't sit here and say it was quite Colorado-esque, but UCF coming off of their own exciting victory the last time that they took the field. Played TCU, they win 35-34. They trailed 31-20 going into the fourth quarter. Were able to pull off the victory at TCU. If you haven't seen Gus Malzahn's club, bottom line, UCF, not surprising if you followed Gus Malzahn's career. They run the football as well as anybody in college football. And oh, by the way, that ain't hyperbole. They are quite literally the number 1 rushing offense in all of college football, 375 rushing yards per game. If you follow college football, you're familiar with the name KJ Jefferson, just a really dynamic dual threat kid, spent multiple years at Arkansas, had a great career there, ends up going to UCF, And then, oh, by the way, RJ Harvey, if you do not know this name, you're going to get to know him. He is 4th in the country in rushing yards per game, averaging about 130 or 140 or so per game, 448 through 3 games. So they run the football as well as anybody. But it's also worth noting this about the UCF defense. I know they haven't played the best of competition. UCF so far this season has only played New Hampshire, Sam Houston, and TCU. UCF's defense, how about this? They are last in America in sacks. They have 1 sack the entire season and are 115th nationally in tackles for loss. So this is not a team that gets after the quarterback. This is not a team that makes big plays in the backfield, which is ultimately how you beat Colorado. By the way, in that big game against TCU, 0 sacks, 1 tackle for loss. That ain't going to get it done against anybody the rest of the season. And so when I look at this game, that 14.5-point spread is an awful lot. I get it. I'm going to go ahead and stay away, even though I think Colorado is going to cover. But you know what I actually like quite a bit? I actually like the over of 64.5. And so for everybody who's listening to this show, Torres, you're handing out too many unders. You're boring. I want points, and I want them now. This feels like the game for you. From the Colorado perspective, this defense is improved. Coach Prime even said, he's like, we are getting better. We haven't put it together for a full 60 minutes yet. I was going to say 48 minutes like this is the NBA. A full 60 minutes yet. But the one thing that does concern me, they have struggled with dual threat quarterbacks. Now, another thing with Colorado, they've actually been a very good second half defensive team, but they have struggled with dual threat quarterbacks. If you remember back to week 1, Cam Miller, especially early, diced them in the run game. That was the North Dakota State quarterback. And Sawyer Robertson, who was the Baylor quarterback, had a big touchdown run a week ago. And so that's where my concern comes in if I'm a Colorado fan, is this team likes to run the ball. I'm not a scheme expert, but you kind of know Gus is going to come at you from all angles. I remember being at an Auburn game a few years ago when Gus was the head coach, and there's so much motion in the backfield. It's so confusing. It can't be easy to prepare for, and it can't be easy for this team that has never seen it before in Colorado. They've obviously never played UCF in recent years prior to this one. The same time, though, for everybody that just wants to just hammer UCF in the points, I'm worried about that defensive front and if they can take down Shedeur. Because the one thing about Colorado, by the way, Shedeur and Colorado put up 24, 28, 31 points even when Shedeur is getting hit like a week ago when they were playing Baylor. But here is the counter to that, is that if you can't get to him, if you can't get hands on him, and if you do let him just sit back in the pocket, he's going to tear you apart. I've said it on this show consistently. I believe he is the best quarterback in college football. Give him Carson Beck's offensive line, give him Quinn Ewers' offensive line. He'd be even better than he is right now. And he has a very, very talented receiver core with LaJohntay Wester, Travis Hunter, who should be your Heisman frontrunner right now. Will Shepard, all the guys that they have. So to me, I'll be transparent. I think there's a possibility Colorado wins this game. I really, truly do. But I'm just going to stay away from the point spread. And from a betting perspective, give me the over in this game, because I think we're going to get, again, UCF's win against TCU was a 35-34 type game. This is what that feels like, 38-31, something in that vein. Give me the over in this game.